So, hello and a very good evening, guys. I'm Sachi, a product designer from T-Works, India's largest prototyping center under the Government of Telangana initiative. Today, I'll be moderating this series of celebrating designing toys with someone really interesting we have with us today, who is Krishan. So, for today's topic, designing toys, we have with us Krishan, who has been designing toys for Hamleys, one of the largest stores out there. I've personally indulged so many hours in Hamleys, looking at the varied toys that they have. Imagine being the person who gets to create that, who gets to be the brilliant mind behind all of this. So let me welcome Mr. Krishan again, an extremely talented person who indulges in art, who can paint with both hands, and magic as well, to name a few of his talents. He's also the product design lead at Sideways Consulting. He is the president of Association of Designers of in Mumbai, founder of Fluid, and runs the foundation Kinry along with the actress Richa Chadda. I can go on and on about his qualities and how multi-talented he is, but I'm going to hand it over to Krishan to talk a little bit about himself. For the audience, please feel free to add in as many questions as you'd like. Krishan has insisted to keep this conversation fluid, the way he likes to call it. And pour your hearts out, ask as many questions as you'd like, and we'll hear what Krishan has to say as well. So handing over to you, Krishan.
Okay, thank you so much, Sachi. Welcome, everybody. I want you guys to be with me right now and just type out where you are joining from in the Zoom chat. So I know what kind of geographies are we dealing with today. Just type out the city name where you are coming from. And when you're messaging, just text to everyone. Sampath is saying Hyderabad, Abhishek. Hi, Delhi. From Delhi, Mega, Hyderabad. Shruti from Nagpur. Hi, Shruti. I know Shruti. Sushma, Hyderabad. Apurva, Ahmedabad. Kochi, Patna. Hi, Salman. Hi, Dia. Hi, Rohan. Hi, Arindam. Kolkata, Thane. Oh, great. So we've got length and breadth of the country. That's wonderful, right? And now what I want you guys to do is think of an age that you would like to go back to if given a chance. If you're really happy with your age, think of your age right now and just type in that age in the chat. How many years old would you want to be if given a chance? Just type that out in the chat window so we all can see, and feel free to come up with a creative number as well. It could be your lucky number. It could be a number that you had a great time while you were that age. Dheeraj wants to be 12. Arindam wants to be 13. Manjari wants to be 3. Shruti 23. Wonderful. Abhishek. Okay. Sachi wants to be 7. That's amazing, right? So now just think to yourself, why would you want to go to that age? Does it have anything to do with the topic for the day, which is decoding fun to innovate and play? You guys can see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Sachi, you can see my screen?
Yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. So what we're going to do today is, in the next 1 hour, half an hour would be me sharing some fun things we have learned over the years, designing toys and designing and understanding and doing research with a lot of consumers. Because like Sachi told you, we've been designing toys for Hamleys, and we are their innovation partners globally now. And we also have worked in the past with Disney, for which we did an extensive research. So the first half an hour, you're going to see some insights from there. If you have any questions, feel free to type them out. Sachi, if you want to interrupt me in between and ask those questions, we can do that. Or we could also do it later, right? And what we'll do in the second half of the hour is that we'll make it interactive. We'll see how you guys can go back building your own toys and games and have fun with that, right? Okay, let's begin. So I'm a fellow child sharing the planet with you. Like Sachi said, I love magic, art, music, poetry. I'm this restless energy, running all around. My grandmother used to say in my previous lifetime, I was this monkey, which, kind of stayed in this year as well. I mean, this lifetime as well. So, I mean, in the last 3 decades apart, nothing much has changed. I'm pretty much the same person. So hardly being contained in a box, and happily so. Sideways is my Monday to Friday bread and butter creative problem solving outfit, advertising, communication, behavioral science, consulting in business and product design, where I lead product design with my very cool colleague who's along with us in this chat today as well, called Neha. She will be joining us in the second part. Fluid is a passion project where I bring together creative people to co-create meaningful experiences. Kindry is an initiative to celebrate everyday heroes. That was the brainchild of Richa Chadda, a good friend of mine. And the co-founder in ADI Bombay is Association of Designers of India, for which I lead the Bombay chapter as the president. So that's a little bit about me, Sachi. Today, we are going to talk about what do we do at Sideways, understanding play in India, a partnership with Hamleys, and one cool product that we are launching, and which we have already kind of launched, but we'll share with you as well. So this is Sideways. Sideways is inspired by these 9 people. And that's why our logo actually comes from the real handwriting of these people, from Salvador Dali to a Walt Disney to a Nick Chand to Piyush Pandey. And you should check out sideways.co.in for the various creative things that we do. It was started by Abhijit Avasthi and Sonali Sehgal from Ogilvy and Mather. They quit after many years of experience there. And it's been 6 years of existence. And since day one, I've been with them. And we've just finished our 6 years. And this is a process we follow, go around Blue Sky, then we do our research, we go out, meet consumers, we find certain insights, what we call potent connections, to do the right thing. So today I'm going to share one particular project that we were commissioned for by Disney, and where we were actually studying a lot of kids around the country, right? And we met over 200, 300 children, their families, and we saw them in different contexts. We saw them at home, we saw them outside, we saw them play with tech toys or non-digital toys or heritage toys, and we understood the entire system. So if you're toy enthusiasts, or if you're game enthusiasts, or even if you're just like student designers right now, or you could be just a non-designer person today just wanting to understand how the process of design works, this could be handy for you. So what you see on your screen right now is what is called a systems design map. So what we do is we pen down all the stakeholders that we want to understand in a system. So what you see here is stakeholders that could be tangible, intangible, and also could be living or non-living. They all come together that play a role. So you see the mother, the child, the father, and then education, health, fun, technology, these start becoming key stakeholders, right? And somewhere you see the grandmother becomes a key stakeholder in some scenarios. And you see how there are broken links between certain entities, but there are very strong links between the other entities. And each of these things that you see on the screen, if you want to take a screenshot, you can. They can give you ideas to create new toys. Wherever you see a missing link, connect them, and you have a great idea to launch. So this is what is called the systems design, which helps us build relationships and find out the flow as to what is the most important stakeholder in a system. If you have any questions around this, I'm happy to take later. The main stakeholders in the system are obviously children and mothers. And in this case, we are studying 4 to 8-year-old children along with their mothers, right? So in this particular system, there are 4 things that came out common. Of course, the husband for the mother and the father for the child. TV, because it's a shared entity. And the mother's watching Kyunki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi, and the child has to forcibly sit with her, especially in lockdown, right? But this was before that. And what we saw was that knowingly or unknowingly, this technology is becoming a big deal. And TV is one of those. And then academics, of course, mothers want the children to, pick up language, pick up English, pick up math, and be really, coming first in class, etc. And this is true universally across the country, right? And retail spaces become important. So Hamleys being one such organized big retail space, but otherwise the smaller retail spaces as well. But if you look at just the child's ecosystem, there are other things that are important, like what's the content they're watching, what is influencing their decision making when they're going to buy toys. Outdoor spaces, which are becoming scarce now, right? And this idea of gadgets, technology, and mobile phone comes in very strong, which the mothers are kind of scared about. While for the mother, what is influencing her are her friends, is her family setup. Sometimes the grandparents are also deciding what toys the child should have, and you'll see the mother's own qualifications we see have a big role to play, because she feels that what she couldn't get for herself, she would want her children to have. So she looks at even toys and games as a role, and of course, finally, health. All mothers want their kids to be happy. So do the fathers, but mothers even more. So what we see in this, once we move forward in this entirety, we have to see things in context. We have to see everything, work around with each other and not in isolation. And we have to see it through the day. So think about it. Tomorrow, if you're going to design a toy, are you designing a 7 a.m. toy? Are you designing an 8 p.m. toy? Are you designing that toy that the child is going to play when the father comes home really tired? And, for all you know, you've designed a great pillow. That's a toy. That's a toy, like a pillow fight. Are you designing an afternoon toy when the mother's busy cooking and the child got nothing to do and the mother doesn't want the child to be busy on the phone? So what are these windows that you design? So we have to keep all of this context in mind before we go around picking up, spaces that we want to design for. So we start looking at what are expectations these parents have from the children, or rather from the toys, and what are the prejudices they have. And we see that there's a lot of hypocrisy where the child can do whatever they want, but it has to be on my terms. Where they say, what do you want your child to be when they grow up? It's like anything. Mummy ki tarah doctor, chacha ki tarah engineer, nahi to papa ki tarah lawyer, nahi to, and the child's like, main to hairstylist banungi. Says, nahi, 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 ye sab nahi karna. You know, like, so there is
Yeah.
this subtle force that's going on with the parents and upbringing the children. So, and also value system, very strong. You know, they can learn many things in school, but values can only be learned at home, right? So, but how do you teach values through games? Huh? Do you really can you teach values? All of these things start coming in. Social skills, discipline, becoming independent, value of money is very important that people think. So all these are opportunities you guys can go back to design toys with as well. And at the same time, there are concerns they have, right? They're like the child is too restless and it gets translated as aggression. There's this boy you see in the right side is, you know, almost there's a video actually where the boy throws the ball at his sister and really can hurt her, right? And the mother's scared to just give a simple football to the child at home, but she's not watching. What do you do with that? And outdoor play and safety, out of sight is out of mind. So the mother has to be, be attentive at the window while she's cooking and keep staring at the child playing downstairs because she's like, oh, like 1 year ago, there was some child kidnapped, and after that, we are really scared, and so on and so forth. Then English and math seemingly are coming out very important, so on and so forth. So, what you see on the left side, it's called Gen Puzzle Book. It's a toy we actually found inside a customer's house, and like the lessons it teaches you is let's go to Pathshala. What things should children avoid to reach the Pathshala? So you don't have to like collect things, but you have to be careful of certain things that you must not do so that you reach the Pathshala, right? So there you see that there's influence of culture, there's influence of religion. So how do you play in this context, right? And as a brand, do you want to get there or do you not want to get there? Rather, do you want to stay, away from such things? And we start seeing, I'll show you a close-up of this. Toys can teach values. This is how it looks like. There's a Pathshala which stares around and every little step teaches you a moral story or a lesson and tells you things you must be careful of. Learning-based games sell, but do they all work? This is also very interesting to see that if you start saying, oh, motor skills, the child will learn motor skills. Oh, your child will become great in math. Oh, faster calculations. Parents go on and start buying it, For example, this one. So name Japan's largest island. This is what the card says in this game. Now, I'm going to ask you guys without Googling, type out if you know the answer. Name Japan's largest island. You said you want to be 7 years old. There's a 6-year-old sitting who's been given this game because the game says 5 years and above. And the parents are buying this game and it says name Japan's largest island. And you go on saying, I don't know. And this is what the kid answers. A yellow dragon, because that's what the kid sees. So what do you see? Games are being wrongly promised. We are telling our children to play with games that we can't play with. We are trying to force feed education in the guise of fun. That doesn't work that way. So unless there's a mentor in the game, how does the child pick up? The child is intuitive, right? So there are many emotions at play when you're talking about, toys and games. There's that awe that you see a game and you really want to open it up and play. There's excitement and there's joy. And then there's also this love, a girl has this one doll house where the doll is sleeping right now. And she's just sitting next to it. And she says, the doll is sleeping, don't wake her up. And if the mother even touches it, she's going to get angry because she's got this motherly bond with the toy now. It's not a toy for her. It's a life. It's a best friend. And there's storytelling going on. So that bond gets formed with the toy as well. It leads to the satisfaction that okay, my doll has eaten food and everything's happening at the right time. And of course, there are drop of emotions as well. What you see on the right side, lower side is that there could be disappointment because you lose the game or dejection because somebody's cheating or you're sad because you just couldn't understand the game or you're scared of some parts of the game. It could be too scary to indulge in. And finally, you exit the game as well. So these are what we call engagement and drop of emotions. So as toy designers, how do you build for these emotions in a game, right? What you see on the top is fun. We don't put it next to other emotions. We call it out separately and you'll know why. And, so like I was saying that there are different insights that start coming in and there are certain need gaps you start figuring out. You see the mother saying, oh, the child is, like aimlessly running around. While the idea is that at that age, it's the child's need to release energy, So it's not really aggression or it's not really restlessness. It's the need to expend that physical energy. So how do you then start creating games like these or academic excellence? So all of these, what you see right now could be routes to design a game. But here's the thing, right? The kid says, "Maza aa gaya," and you ask them, "Ye game kheli kaisa laga?" Maza aa gaya. Then we've all said that, "Ye game khel ke maza aa gaya." How do you define this maza? How do you understand what maza is, and how do you define can you even define this fun? So to know where fun comes from, you must know sources of fun, right? So you must go around and see what are these things that are making people, have fun. Children or the children in all of us. What do we enjoy? And is it the stories? Is it course, it's not education, but it's the play aspect of it. Is it making and building things, transforming things? So we went around and we also looked at free play, what you see, which is random. You give a child a cardboard box and he's going to make a train out of it and he's going to create a tunnel out of it, right? So we identified fun to come from these things, right? It could come from people. So एक बच्चा है वो अपने favorite चाचा जी के साथ खेलता है and he will only play with चाचा. If the चाचा is not home, he's going to cry. So that's people, right? People are sources of fun. Then objects are sources of fun. Now toys is what we define as toys. For kids, everything is a toy. That's why ये खिलौना नहीं है इससे मत खेलो. They're trying to say we are demarcating things, but kids are curious and adventurous and explorers. So they're going to pick up things and make their own meaning out of it. So objects, any objects could be source of fun. Of course, spaces are fun, right? A child says, this is my couch, this is where I sit and play. This for me is my playground, right? Or that corner or that wall or downstairs next to the badminton court. These are favorite spaces of a child, right? And then of course, there are play patterns and activities, what we call in toy and game design, play patterns that allow for different kinds of funs to happen. And finally, what you see is what we call random, that we cannot define, that we have kind of forgotten as grown-ups that there's some idea around just not defining things and still having fun. So how do you plug in randomness in gameplay? What you see here is examples of random play. What you see on top left is a 9-year-old girl distributing toys to 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old siblings, and she just distributes them over and over for 45 minutes. And kids are just sitting in a trance state, and we're like, what is this fun here? Why are they enjoying this? There's no rule, there's nothing. And probably it's like you meet your friends after a stressful week and you meet at a Starbucks and you're just taking a sip because you're meeting with your close buddies. Maybe it's their coffee time, maybe it's the me time, maybe it's like, arey, so itni lambe 6 feet, 5 feet height ke log hain, or I'm like 2.5 feet, and at least I can see now at eye level, my back's not hurting, my neck's not hurting. I can sit with these people, this is my tribe. Yeah. So on top right, you see that cardboard box. It's where these kids are going to jump in. They're going to make it a tunnel. Somebody's going to make it a canvas to draw art on. On the bottom left, that's a game that is supposed to teach you geography, but they're simplifying. They're breaking a rule and they're converting it to a simple snakes and ladders version of a game. What you see on the bottom right is a child that puts together a lot of these Jenga blocks and these wooden blocks, and next to them he parks all his cars. He's got some 45 cars. He's fascinated. What he calls that thing is a castle, and then he's about to come and jump on the castle and break it, and he's going to burst in laughter and that fun, and you're like, इतने प्यार से बनाया है ना, आखिर इसने तोड़ दिया, इसको मजा आ रहा है. So destruction is also fun. This idea of randomness is including destruction as well. So we said, what is the ideal play scenario? Of the 5 things that you see on the left side, of course, the people, objects, and spaces come together as a Venn diagram. So when I'm with my favorite person, which is my best friend, and for example, Ishita, who's 8 years old, told us that her best friend Pooja will come home and then they will play with Barbie, which becomes the toy, and they will dress her up and they will take her to the garden, which becomes the spot. So now this is an ideal play scenario for the child, right? Or I want to play with my competitor who's a little better than me in a certain game of cricket, and I want to play on a certain field, a certain pitch outside, and I want to win that, and that's my space then with that particular bat, right? And then parents are like, you already have 3 bats, why do you want the 4th bat? And the 4th bat is coming because the competitor's got a better quality bat there, so you're still buying those bats, right? So that's your ideal play scenario. But rarely is it happening, right? That ideal play scenario doesn't get formed. So how do you design toys that make up for that? So we said that fun actually comes in peaks. Fun is not a sustained emotion. Fun comes in for a second and then it's gone. And then you play the game continuously. You still want more peaks of fun. So a great game is one that has inbuilt elements of peaks of fun. But you see on the left side are factors that will amplify engagement. So whether it's through design of the object or it's about choosing the right people to play with. So does your game tell who and when and what time should you and where should you sit to play this game? Is it covering this context? Then it'll amplify engagement for these kids and adults alike. If it's not, then you're going to figure out that eventually people are going to drop off. And what you see on the right side are drop-off factors. Bullying, imbalance in ability, rivalry, losing, bigger age difference, or oh, मैं लड़का हूँ, मैं थोड़ी doll से खेलूंगा. Gender biases, the way conditioning happens, somebody cheating, and then of course the object elements, right? Poor battery life, ergonomics, quality अच्छा नहीं है, inconvenient play patterns, so on and so forth, right? So all of these things kind of start playing a role when you have to design toys. So you have to remember multiple factors like these once you go on to test your toys and see how can you improve those. So what's a great toy would be something that has a lot of fun peaks, would sustain itself, would not bore the child in 3 days or the parent in 5 days and say, "Arey, ho gaya." You don't want their child, but I mean, there's no foolproof way to do this because there's this idea of randomness, and a child We have seen them in the retail shop go around for like 20 minutes, and we gave them 300 rupees and we said you could buy anything. And we told the parents, you do not disturb, let the child decide. And the child goes about running and picks up this, blah, blah, and finally picks up a monkey. It's like 20 rupees. And the child wants that monkey. And okay, great. So what's that monkey doing for the child that other things aren't apparently doing is something that you have to look for, right? So do you see on the top left side, Barbie hi lungi? So a girl walking in the store when we gave her 300 bucks, she's preconceived. There's a thought है say Barbie लेने गई है वो, and the mother is saying, अरे वो ले लो, chest ले लो, अरे just buy something. You know, parents are trying to put in some learning there. You know, like, and the monkey चाहिए उसे नया table tennis racket चाहिए. Mother saying, but you already got 4 table tennis rackets. She's not understanding why the child wants yet another one, but he's not got the one that the neighbor's child has, which is apparently going to be responsible for them winning in the school or whatever, like society tournament. You know, like bada bat le lo. So the mother wants the child to buy a bigger bat because she thinks the child is going to grow in height and the bat will be of value 2 years later as well. And that doesn't make sense because the child won't be able to play, so on and so forth. So, and you know, the retailers understand this. So especially the unorganized sector in India, they'll start talking to the mother and say, madam, इसमें ना बच्चे सीख सकते हैं, कुछ जोड़ सकते हैं, इसमें उनकी क्रिएटिविटी आ जाएगी, you know, और बच्चे को दिल से ये बहुत कलरफुल है, देखो बेटा कितना मजा आएगा. So the language they talk is very different. So we say, why is this happening, right? And we understand that actually the reason is that as adults we start shopping with our left brain, but kids are shopping with their right brain. So this is a very important point to think of when you're designing, because India is a retail heavy ecosystem. So we are not an ecosystem which is favored by innovation necessarily, but is favored by retail. So advertising, so on and so forth. So what do you put out there and how does the child get attracted to it? You know, that has to talk to the child's intuitive brain and the parents' logical brain. So how many of you have ever owned a Rubik's Cube? Give me a cheer. Give me yes. If you ever you owned or yes, just write yes in the chat window. Oh, great. All of you. Okay, no. Thank you. Well, I heard at least 20, 30 yeses there. How many of you have ever solved a Rubik's Cube? Honest answers, please. Honest.
Not
right,
fully.
yes or no? Right, yes or no? If you've ever solved a Rubik's Cube, like if it was given to you and you were like, okay, I've solved it now. There you go. You know, and there the answers changed. Nope. Okay, a couple of you did. Half of it doesn't count, Ariba. That doesn't count as solving a Rubik's Cube. Okay, it's pretty rare, right? So we see, why is it that all of us had a Rubik's Cube, but hardly 2 of us have solved it? You know, or let me put it this way. Let me ask you another question. Okay, let's actually analyze the Rubik's Cube first before we move to the next one, right? So for the mother and the father who brings in the Rubik's Cube, it's talking to the left brain. I say it's the hope that my child will be a genius one day. That's what all our parents thought when they got us the Rubik's Cube. And for us, we were just buying a colorful ball. And when we go to these kids, they're like, oh, you know what? I made the letter L. L for Lakshay. And you see the letter L, this orange L that's incidentally there. And somebody says, oh, this is a mountain. This is because the kid is imagining a colorful ball that can be thrown around. That's so powerful, you know, that changes shape. And for kids, anything that can animate in its physicality is beautiful. You play chess? Yes or no, guys? Chime in the chat window. Yes or no? Have you ever played chess? Yes. All intelligent people you've called, Sachi. Everybody plays the Rubik's Cube and chess. Arindam, Abhishek, Salman, Neha, Obi, Sai. Okay, great. So all of you play chess. Amazing. I'll show you how kids play chess. You see this image? So this is a 5-year-old child. We asked, okay, how do you play? And he said, this is the king sitting on the horse. He's going to like the forest, you know, shikar pe nikal chuke hain Raja. So, and you know why that's happening? Because the child is looking at the game intuitively with the right brain. The game doesn't show the queen to have long hair or a crown. It's just the king that's got it. You know, the game, the pawns sitting in front don't have a face or a sword or something. It looks like a regular pawn, right? It looks like a regular Ludo pawn. The horse looks like a horse. The king looks like a king. The elephant and the camel don't look like elephants and camels. So how do you know? So this is how kids make their own meaning. Now, wouldn't this be a fantastic game if either you design things that are intuitive, which means design a chess where the elephant looks like an elephant, or design a chess where the horse moves 2.5 steps is visible in the form of the chess, right? Or design it in a certain way where you can make your own meaning and put in storytelling as a metric of chess, and it'll work out better. Now, kids, everybody at home has chess, but they don't want to play chess. Parents don't know how to teach chess, but they've bought in chess. So you see, but chess is a great product because it's talking to the left brain of parents and right brain of the child.
Hmm.
So for the parents, it's developing strategy, chess, and for kids, it's a storytelling tool. So games that talk to kids as well as parents are going to sell well. That's the insight, right? So if you are a toy designer or you're an entrepreneur investing in this, there's one simple way of evaluating a toy or a game. Is it talking both to the parent as well as the child? Within the parent, is it more importantly talking to the mother? Because you'll see fathers behave very differently when it comes to shopping, and you'll see it in the presentation as well. Wait a second. For some reason, yeah. Okay. So the mother is always there. She's a nurturer, she's the one spending time. And fathers are, that's why loved more by children, because fathers bring in gifts. Fathers come in late at home. The scarcity, the mother is saying, "Ye, hello, hello," and the father comes in and says, "Chocolate." Why do the fathers do that? Because they are guilty for not being able to spend so much time. And that's why fathers' purchases happen at airports. They're all guilt-driven purchases. That's why Hamleys being at airports is a great example, right? Because I'm busy, I'm traveling from Bangalore to Hyderabad. Let me just get something. I'm okay spending 2,000 rupees on a toy because I'm anyway spending 20,000 rupees on my tickets and travel and this and that. And there you go. And fathers buy toys, mothers buy toys that children will learn from, or there'll be some value. Fathers buy toys that they can themselves play with. So this is what we start realizing, and this is what, not me, I'm talking to you. This is the voice of many distributors, many retailers, many people in the market who have noticed this over time. So okay, let's move on. So now we start looking at these things and we say, okay, then but we have to build our own processes, mechanisms. We have to build in what are called design principles. So we have to say, to have a short learning curve, it has to be interactive, there has to be familiarity, it cannot be something super new. If I start telling the kids, okay, you know what, now we're going to talk about pyramids, or leaning tower of Pisa, or like how equator falls. So it's great educationally, but the
Hmm.
moment you start about Chota Beam, which he's already watching on TV, there's already okay, let's want to play. This familiarity, right? So, or self-discovery, a thing that the child forms. Can a child be creative and build their own game? So these are all techniques to build toys, play patterns. And how heavy should the rules be? How do you gamify the game? What are various mechanisms, DIY, revival of a game, that used to be great some 500 years ago. How do you reinvent it for today's time? Because today everything is online and things are changing. So we put down design principles and said, of course, it has to be fun and engaged and sustain engagement, quick learning curve, familiarity, discovery, gender agnostic, because we want to send out the right messages as well. We don't want dolls for girls and guns for boys and cars for boys is the norm anymore. So, and
Yeah.
what's the seamless experience? And we go on further around this. And of course, as a brand, you must know why, how, what. Why are you doing what you're doing? So if it's for Hamleys or for Sideways or for you, what business are you really in matters? Are you there to like help children understand the subject matter better, and so you design, or are you in the business of pure play fun and randomness, so on and so forth? And I won't get into details of like branding exercises that we must do before we get into the design for the brand as well. So while understanding this play ecosystem, Reliance, which owns Hamleys now, and Sideways, we have a joint venture to innovate in the toy ecosystem. So if you guys have great ideas also, write to us and we'll be happy to evaluate those and see what could be done together. So what happens in any business is retail, design, and manufacturing. And but now Hamleys is trying to bring in manufacturing and like design to India. So in our partnership, we are trying to see, because import duties are getting heavier. Nobody wants to import from China anymore. I mean,
Hmm.
it's going to be crazy expensive. Also, the quality can be made better in India. So this is going to be a very highly growing market, because India is young, is getting married, going to have children. They're going to be playing with toys. Simple.
Yeah.
So and slowly and slowly we'll be making more and more and more toys in India. And we are the designers. We're going to design for them, and the biggest retailers out there, Hamleys, are our partners. So across this, we'll officially launch at India Toy Fair one of the toys that we're going to show right now amidst the others. And this toy is our attempt to revive a very old device of games called the dice. So a 5,000 plus year story. We've all seen a dice. It's a classic cube with 6 digits around it, which is so powerful. It has not changed in its basic play pattern, because it has this element of chance, which is so amazing, so random for a gameplay, right? And yet in the last 15 years, there's been a decrease in board games. For something that lasted 5,000 years, what is causing it to change. So we took the onus upon ourselves to reinvent the classic dice. And the idea, I didn't go in details for you guys earlier, but the idea also is that you don't forcefully put technology in a product. That's not cool. That makes a toy priced at 5,000 rupees and not everybody can buy it. So we wanted to be democratic, and we see what do we do today if we take the onus upon ourselves to put in another element of play pattern that is fun in a dice. And what do we do, right? So what we said is we are going to create this thing called Dicey, and we're going to add a dimension to the classic dice. Okay. And what we have just done is we have added a simple unit inside a regular dice, which when you roll is going to light up. And it lights up randomly in either red or green. Okay, simple. So after you roll this dice, it's going to light up in red or green. And if it's going to be red, you go back as many steps. If it's going to be green, you go forward as many steps. Okay, so if you're playing snakes and ladders, you run 30, you get 5 red, you go back to 25. But if you get a green color 3, you go to 33. Simple. So this is adding a vector to the scalar dice. Now this is one understanding of it. But we could say that, Sachi, which color do you want, green or red?
Red.
Red. So what we're going to say is, if I roll the dice and if a red color comes, Sachi gets to play. Okay, because she chose red. So the idea of exchanging destinies happens. It doesn't matter who rolls the dice. 2-player game, we can assign colors and we can play accordingly, right? So it adds another level of play pattern. You could say attacking and defending. You could teach kids math by saying green is for plus and red is for minus. So if you roll 2 dice, what you see on your screen is a red color 5 and a green color 3. So that would become 3 minus 5 minus 2. And 2 dice are rolled, right? So in this moment, let me just take a moment and show you guys a TV ad that's going to come in. That's not launched yet, but you guys will get lucky to see it right now.
Wow.
Of the same product. So I'm going to just let me know if you can hear the sound as well.
Sure.
Okay, great. Great. So you see this?
I'm not able to see the screen of the ad. I can only see the one.
Okay, now?
Yeah, now.
Now?
Yeah. I can't hear. I don't think I can hear.
Just a second. I think I'll have to remove the mic. One sec. Share sound. Okay. Now?
Impossible. Vishwagutti को 0 नहीं मिल सकता. Vishwagutti is genius. It's a mistake. Please check again.
Okay dear. फिर से चेक कर लेते हैं.
5 + 5 = 10.
Sorry dear. गलती तो इंसान से ही हो जाती है. और विशुगुट्टी इज अ.
दोबारा चेक करते हैं. 5 - 5 0.
अब सब कुछ डाइसी के हाथों में है, तो आपके हाथों में डाइसी क्यों नहीं? Get all Dicey games today.
Wow. Damn cool.
Am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Hello.
Yeah, you're audible.
Cool.
दोस्तों आज हम लेके आए हैं एसेस डाइस
Sorry.
मेरा नाम है राहुल और आप देख रहे हैं डीएम.
Sorry, there's another video that played. My bad. Okay, I'll come back to the deck now. So what you guys just saw is going to be an ad. So you see how actually circling the entire ecosystem is very important. And you will see as we are going forward, the Dicey is already being sold in Hamleys offline right now because it's a lockdown. So, I mean, of course, you're not visiting there, but if you go there, you're going to see it there, right? And you're going to see what we have done is we have assigned meanings to red and green and built different play patterns and games around it. So we co-created these games and tested them with children, keeping in mind, like which are those pointers that we have to remember, like at what point does the fun go missing? At what point does the game go on too long and it gets boring? At what point do we see there's no ability to create their own games now? And that is the sweet spot we are trying to hit with games that we're building. So you see a single unit dice is available out there, as well as these games that you can buy at Hamleys now. And each of these, there's going to be a dice that comes along, which is called the dicey. So do you see on the left side is a new play pattern, which is going to teach the value of being greedy to the child, but not too greedy as well. And yet it's going to be fun to play with the dice. In this, you need to continue getting the streak of the same color to get a higher score. What you see in Astro Hunt is a storytelling of aliens hiding under spaceships, and you need to find those aliens using a dicey. Dicey is the new dice, right? So we call it dicey. Then snakes and ladders and ludos have been redefined with the dicey. So with the red color, you move forward in ludo, but with the green color, you move forward twice as many steps. So it becomes fun to get a green that is green in color, right? And this is the world's first cheat-proof dice, because even if you place the dice just like this, you don't know if it's going to be red or green. It's completely random. So you can take a risk. If you're at 10 and you want to take a risk, you can go back to 4, or you could go to 16 with the color of the dice as well. And the Knockout and Brain Vita are again versions of two new games that we have designed. So what we are hoping to do, what we're hoping to get done is that to give Dicey as a tool to kids and to people like you as well, to create your own games as well. And if we love the idea, and if families love the idea, it could be commercialized and it could be built into a new game as well. So eventually we are going to build an ecosystem around this Dicey and see to it that there are multiple rounds of creations sourced from people who play with this as well. So we are currently reinventing classics, building mathematical games, memory games, and finally novel play patterns. We presented this at Nuremberg Toy Fair last year, and you see that one guy is wearing that greedy monkey crown, which you get if you lose the game actually, and then it kind of felt like it was a success with all the people that we showed in Europe, and we are hoping to like properly launch it this year in Christmas around the world again, hoping, touch wood, that COVID is going to be like quieter and not as bad like it was in the second wave. So we had to digitally launch games. So what we also did around the world, we did this, what you see on the green screen on the left side, and this is on the right side is how it was visible to people on the screen. And we also launched it in Toy Fair. Yeah, I think that brings me to like a closure to share a small project with you right now, and also the journey of how it goes about. You can take a screenshot of this image if you want to get in touch with me later. And of course, Sachi, we can now bring in the Q&A. I hope I'm on time.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I think someone has asked about your Dicey. Are you allowed to patent Dicey?
We have patented it.
Okay.
We have patented it. Yes, it's a patent filed, and it takes time to get a patent, but we have already filed for the patent for it. Yes. So can we have your videos on, people, and who wants to come in, because now second part of the evening is going to start, where we are going to talk about how can you design toys and games.
Yeah.
If there's any other question, you can even type it out. But of the 50 of us here, we can turn on our videos. So Sachi, we can start the beauty contest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I gave a disclaimer at the beginning itself. I told you guys to be ready in this 1 hour at least. Then this 40 minutes is enough time to turn on videos. Awesome.
Definitely.
Ed Craft, Apurva, hi. Hi, you guys can unmute yourself and introduce and say like what do you do. And if I can be removed from the spotlight now, and we can all come to the gallery view, so it feels.
Sure. Megha, can you do that?
Sure, I've done that.
Okay, thank you. Great. So, any comments, any thoughts? Was it too fast a presentation? Was it like tried to like put in certain things? Do you guys enjoy? Obi says something. Everyone says nice presentation. Srisha says wonderful idea. Obi is asking a question: do kids still engage with physical toys more than digital, or is it mostly still an impulse buy based on the left brain? So, this is a good question, because if you go to kids today, they ask you certain very thought-provoking questions. Like this one girl says, "Mummy, why is the TV not touchscreen?" So the idea with technology is that when you're a young person, whether you're a child or you're like your age right now, 20, 25, 30, whatever, anything new that comes in is cool. Any new technology is cool. Once you start going beyond an age, you are like Okay. I'm still excited about it. Like, damn, I can do it this way as well. Oh, I can say, hey, Alexa, heat the water, for which I've never done in my life, but I'm cool. But beyond a certain age, and this is completely not necessarily physical, for most people, it's mental. But after that, technology seems like redundant, unnecessary. So beyond the age, people are like, why do you need to do technology, put in technology here, right? So now young kids who are growing in exposure of having an iPad on day one, they are definitely going to want only high tech gadgets in their hand, right? It's going to be very difficult to give them something inanimate unless it's got certain electronic elements, or it's got a beautiful story, or it's got a bond that is formed over years, like emotions build over years. Humor can be done quickly. So the idea, what I'm trying to say here is that for young audiences that have gotten the exposure of technology at home, at a very young age, they will mostly want to play with online games. They will because the screen is such a powerful tool. Every second there's a new reality here. And for kids who are feeling restless, there's something new to look at, right? And for adults, we could get intimidated by it. A child doesn't. A child looks at it as a challenge. So yeah, to just sum it up, it's getting difficult for the audience where they're bombarded with technology around them. But mass market India is not bombarded with technology, and there is a lot of physical play and opportunity to design better physical play. And second part, beyond the desire, is there a need? Of course, there's a need to keep low tech things as well in the environment, because you know what environment full of technology is going to become for us. It's going to make our screens thinner and us fatter. So yeah, next question.
I think someone has asked, can you please tell about the electronic part of the product? Where did you from manufacture? If it's in India, how was your experience?
It's been a topsy-turvy road for us slightly because of the COVID times, right? So it would be very easy to source things from China, but it would come with the risk of it being copied by the time you're back to the airport. So that's why China becomes a trouble. So I've been to China a few times, and everything that you think of as ideas, they've already made for some reason, and like, wow, it's great, and kudos to their country for doing that, right? But a lot of people try to either big brands try to partner with certain specific trustable sources in China. Otherwise, they try to now especially try to find out in India. Now, the thing is, because manufacturing is nascent as compared to China and India, uh, building for manufacturing takes time. For example, China would have clusters where every small thing that you need for a toy, let's say a toy needs electronics, needs plastic, needs silicon, etc. So they'll subsidize land around it and give you that land to build a toy cluster, right? India is doing that great now. India has just begun doing that, and this is not my forte. So what I'm telling you is just hearsay from what I've heard from manufacturers. So the thing is, when you build things and you have to innovate things, you need to do R&D, for which if you're going to call up this guy and says, "Arey, silicon to Punjab mein milta hai. Arey, wood ka kaam to South mein hota hai." So there are hindrances, these operational hindrances to innovate something. That said, prototyping is done very rapidly in India. So if your question is, electronic part of the product was ready in a week's time, we were ready with the product. But then to make it scalable, to make it at a cost that the consumer will buy, and to make it so high quality, takes time, because you're still relying on components being sourced from either China or other places, so on and so forth. So it was topsy-turvy because of COVID, and also because it takes time to build networks. So what T-Works is doing is great. This is the time to plug in to say that you guys are trying to build in, maker spaces for conducive for builders, designers like us. So thank you to you. Dheeraj says, by looking at your dice game, I remember an episode of
Phineas and Ferb.
Where they make brick as a toy and it becomes a hit with kids. Oh, interesting. Thanks a lot, Dheeraj. Awesome insight. Does your survey target audience giving any suggestion for new toys, and what are somewhat wacky ideas that came forth? I shared a few ideas there right now with you, wherein chess could be made simplified. For example, 8x8 ki jagah 4x4. That's an idea that came from consumers, right? We didn't build that yet. If you guys want to build it, go ahead. There are things that actually, well, why don't we just build a toy today, right? And we have some faces. Let's hear from these people. Hi, Rohan. Hi, Diya. Hi, Salman. Do you guys have anything to say? Unmute yourself and talk.
Kishan, are you able to hear me? This is Krishna here from Hyderabad.
Yeah, hi Krishna. I can hear you. I can't see you though, but yeah, go on.
Yeah, I think I have a problem with my camera. But anyway, so 2 years back, I ventured into this because I have a kid who was just born, and my elder one was 7 years by then. The whole idea was to make toys, and in a way, I would give you an example of a play kitchen. Okay, my elder kid was enjoying the kitchen, but then the idea came, what do I do with it? Like, I have to store it for the next 5 years till the younger one becomes 7, or I just destroy it and then throw it somewhere. And then we tried to, look back, and then the COVID hit us and we couldn't move forward, and then we actually shelved the product. But I wanted to hear your views on toys like that.
So great. Again, a very good question. And it's very important for the context of where we are headed, in the consumerism space, right? And this one, I'll quote a friend of mine called Jan Kurbis, who's a sustainable architect, founder of refunk.nl. You guys should check him out as well. So what he gets people to do is, and I'll request you guys to do. So do me a favor, pick up an object around you, any small object, big object. Those who've got the videos on, show that object to me. Any object, hold it in your hands, okay? Now, what I want you guys to do is, as you hold this object, close your eyes and just feel this object with both your hands. Feel the texture, feel the form, feel the weight of that object, just feel it. Okay. Now, for whatever it's worth, you might have picked up a random object. I want you guys to name this object something. Okay. Name it something that comes to your head. Have you named it? If you have named it, you can open your eyes. Okay. Okay. What I want you guys to do once again now is imagine that this particular object in your hand is now completing its lifetime in its usage. Okay. That if it was meant to be a pen, the ink is over. Or if it was meant to be a headphone, the electronics are gone now. Or if it was supposed to, whatever it was, it's gone now. Okay. Now, close your eyes again, feel the form again, and see what else could this object be for you. Okay. Think about the contours, think about the curves, think about what else could it do to you. Okay. Remember the name of the object. You're the parent of this object. You've just given it a name, Awesome. Okay, great. Open your eyes. Thank you so much. Rohan, can you unmute yourself, please? So Rohan, show us the object. Tell us about what the object is.
So this is my new, I don't know what to call it. I haven't named it yet. I have a few names, but I like to call it Golu for some reason because it's very
Olu.
Yeah.
Okay, it's called Olu. Wonderful. So what is it? What is the object currently in its form?
Tape measure. It's a tape measure.
It's a measuring tape. Okay, great. So now imagine that for whatever it's worth, one day you don't need a measuring tape anymore. And this object, that's now Olu, it's like close to your heart now. Now you must, what other function do you think it would work out for you?
I like to hold it for some reason. I don't know why. It's very ergonomic.
Hmm.
So it smells very nice for some weird
That's
reason.
very nice.
Yeah.
Okay, great. So there you go. He's got two ideas right now. One is when you're stressed, you hold it and you feel better. So that ergonomic form out there, and it smells nice for some, which is interesting. I mean, so why shouldn't measuring tapes smell nice? Great. But you see what's happening also, right? Is that Rohan is building an emotional connection with the product, which for 5 minutes ago was just a measuring tape, but is now called Olu. And let's hear from Dia. Dia, hi. What's the product you have?
Hi. So this is a hair clip.
Hmm.
I named it a crocodile clip because it kind of looks like that. And after you said like it's finished its job, it could maybe be used to maybe hold a sketchbook or hold papers together. So,
Wonderful. Great. Arindam, Salman, and Shruti, one of you can go if you want to talk about your product. Unmute yourself. Whoever wants to talk. Dia, that was great. Thanks.
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Salman, go for it.
Yeah, I have a screwdriver here.
Hmm.
So I just got a name like Tex. I don't know where it came. Just
What's the name?
Tex.
Tex. T-E-X, Tex.
T-U-X. Just
T-U-X, Tux. Okay, great.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah,
And what is it going to do after you don't need it?
so it's heavy, like it's powered by a motor, so I can use it as a like a in my desk as a paperweight or something like that. Can be placed, and also that can be done.
Okay, great. So great, right? So what I'm getting you guys to do right now is actually an exercise that is done in person. And what happens is that you guys have to pass on your object to the person to your left. So what happens is that Rohan has to pass Olu to Diya. Diya has to pass Crocodile to Salman, and Salman has to pass the tux to Rohan. And how do you guys feel about that right now? After this conversation has taken place, you will notice it gets slightly difficult to give the Olus and the tuxes and the crocodiles of the world, right? So the idea of our relationship with objects, is that end of use is not end of life. And the more we start understanding this aspect and we start inculcating this aspect, we will see that an object will have a longer shelf life in our space, and I mean, if not Indians, then who? The same chair in my house, which I sit on, I also place like wet clothes on sometimes, or my cat could sit there, or I could put in the TV remote there. There's so much that the affordance of the objects allows us to do, and we repurpose objects as well. So the question that was asked by Krishna right now doesn't have a simple answer that, hey, what do I do? Do I wait 6 years and 7 years and waste storage space in my house? Or do I throw it away? So it's going to be very personal. It's going to depend on what is your intangible relationship with that object. And if that object has that affordance to have that story with you, or is that object just going to be a box that you're going to think as throwing off? Like Neha, my colleague, is sitting here right now. She makes jhumkas. She makes things out of, she repurposes buttons, this, that, everything. And Neha, you should put in the Instagram link here for people to check out as well. So she takes everyday objects and she makes them out of beautiful jhumkas and she gifts them to people. So now for Neha, those objects are not waste. If you give something to Neha, she's going to find a purpose of it. But that's what Neha has inculcated in herself as a designer. And many Indians are grassroots innovators. We figure out jugaad and we figure out those solutions, and like it happens organically in our life. Like Krishna had a child and said, okay, I'll kitchen set banate hain. And then what Krishna is saying right now is both ways to look at it. One is it going to be, so one way to solve the problem is, can we have a kitchen set that can fold and become so compact that for 3 years it can rest in the drawer and come out when needed again? Or could the solution be, Krishna could subscribe to a kitchen set for 2 months and give it back and collect it later, 3 years later when he wants it again? Or it could be for Krishna to say that, how can the kitchen set be made so nice that he will never want to throw it away? Not only for the next 3 years or 4 years or 5 years, but actually the 30 years. And we'll remember, there are toys we remember from our grandparents' times. We keep them. Then they are the Olus of the world, the tuxes of the world. And we don't want to throw them away. So yeah, that's the long answer. Krishna, hope that helps.
It helps. Thanks, Kishan. No, but from a business sense, okay, had you come across mothers asking you the same question, like once the purpose is done, what do I do with such a big thing or with it? Like,
so
how often?
In fact, the trouble for the mother is even bigger. The purpose is still alive, but the child is bored the next day. So it's not even like weeks in your case or months in your case, after which, you are deciding to throw. Many a times the child gets a toy and never plays with it as well. So that's a bigger problem to look at and say that, now he's got a new toy and next day he's saying, I want something new. So what does that mean? That we are forcing things, right, to children. We are forcing things. We are somewhere not understanding the child then. So definitely that's a big problem. And in that case, a lot gets thrown out and a lot gets passed on to the younger siblings and younger cousins and here and there. I have played with, toys that my cousin, my bua's son used to play with, and then they were handed over to me. My cricket bat was passed to my cousin brother younger. So all these things are happening, and definitely people are looking at solutions like subscription-based models, for one example, like I gave. And there is opportunity in addressing what you're saying. Any other thoughts, questions?
Yeah, hi, I'm Rajika.
Hi, Rajika.
So, hi, I make wooden puzzles for children, and I've been in the line of education for the last 25 years. So right now, my brand is called Eco Play. So we do come out. I have a designer, and I've also designed a few of my own puzzles. So I just was asking, how long do you think when you come out with a design for your company, because you do for families, what is the length of, the duration that you think one design would last before you need to come out with a new design? What is the the longevity of the design?
That you should be telling. That you should be telling us.
No, because
You have been doing it for 25 years.
no.
And we
So
have-
essentially, my initial years was material with materials for children with special needs. So I worked essentially with the government, and there was no retailing. So I've just gotten into the retail market in the last maybe a year and a half. I will write to you once we are done tomorrow, day after.
Sure.
So I was just curious to know how long would you
So
think?
let me reframe. Let me get, okay, I want to know something from you. So are you saying you have, let's say, an idea that you are unsure of about as to how long would the shelf life be? Are you feeling pressurized to think constantly of new ideas? Or is it that business wise you're thinking how many resources to allocate towards designing toys?
No,
I'm trying
no.
to get to the
So what I'm saying is I have a toy, I have a design or a wooden puzzle, which I've come out with the design. So when you launch it in the market, typically what is the longevity where people start getting bored, or you need to come out with a new product every 6 months, that sort of thing.
if your idea is going to be as great as a dice, 5,000 years, and people will still play with it. If it's going to be Rubik's Cube, it's going to be in every household around the world.
So it'll
And
never
it'll
go,
still bring you royalty. So it depends on your idea, right? It depends on what is it is going to mean to that person who's going to buy it. Is there novelty? Is there all of these factors will play a role in defining the object's shelf life? I think the one simpler answer to that is, does the toy have, if the question is how do you sustain a toy in the market? If that is the question, how does a
yeah,
wooden
very
game?
similar.
Yeah, so if that is the question, then you need to ensure an ecosystem around it. So what a Beyblade did is that it starts giving many avatars to it. So it reinvented a classic top, and then it started having tournaments around it. So kids would be excited to play in bigger tournaments, intercity tournaments. Kids are putting videos on YouTube around it, So XYZ thing. So the longevity has to be built in an entire ecosystem then. So you don't buy the entire game on day one. You buy part 1 of 50. So then you buy part 2s, but you have already programmed the play for 50 parts of the toy, which you will then sell across 3 years. So you're not going to hope to solve the entire, need using this one quick fix. So then the mindset has to move towards building an ecosystem versus building a toy.
Right. Thank you.
Christian, we have a question. So
Yes.
is it a good idea to design a toy with this thought in mind that you go to supermarket and it will be bought just to satisfy only that I want to buy something new mindset, and it not being an actual useful toy?
So actually, the fundamental of buying things is that we always buy old things, packaged as new. So if Obi, your favorite color is blue and you buy a blue shirt, then you will see that you will go and buy blue shirts again and again. So let me again ask Obi this question: is the question trying to ask that consumerism driven design, or fashion, like fast fashion design, or this is the latest thing in the market right now, so I must own it design? Is that the question, Obi? Are you trying to ask a question that regardless of the shelf life, regardless, like a fad, for example, or it's just the latest thing in town and it's the talk of the town, because I want to buy something new mindset doesn't exist actually.
What
yeah.
I wanted to ask was, so you mentioned that you might buy even a 5,000 rupee toy today, and then the child will simply get bored tomorrow, and again you go to buy groceries or something. The child is going to look around and he say, no, I want to buy this. So that can be a good gimmick from a toy maker or a seller, so that you just buy a 50 rupees toy, and every child going through that aisle at his eye level, he'll keep buying that fancy colored toy just for the sake of I want to buy something new.
So the impulse driven toys, which are which are priced at the right amount, do end up selling fast and going out quickly because of the same reason that they have some level of novelty and they're priced right to be just, picked up, like you rightly said. So that is the route for people to take, except that my question to you would be, how do you design something like that? If the brief is design something that is new, you can't design anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you are traveling on the road and you stop at a red light and you see something fancy new. It's something which is designed in a different matter. So it's a.
So let me ask you, give me an example of something that is so fancy and new on the roadside that will make you pick it up.
So you will just do a bubble kind of thing. You blow air into it and it will generate bubbles. So a different.
Okay. So tell me, are bubbles new?
No.
So you get my point?
Yeah.
So actually, what the same point is what I'm trying to make for you right now is that the play pattern, if it's unique and can stand out and can be packaged at a price point that you can pick it up while traveling on the road, yes, it will work. Yes, it will be something great. What I think, let me just finish.
Yeah.
I think what you're pointing out as a nice insight too is, should we design a toy that is worthy of just being played for a couple of days and forgotten as an opportunity idea? Yes, that's a big opportunity idea.
So
And
but you're
that's how,
saying that the longevity will not be there probably with that.
that's okay. But people are selling toys, games at Gateway of India that will be thrown off while going back home. It's working for them. Is it good for the environment? No. Is it something a big brand should think of doing? Ideally not. Is it something that could work for your particular business if you have a great idea? Yes.
Sure.
So that's there is no right or wrong. So what I'm trying to say is just dig deep and see what is the problem that you're addressing, right? And is that going to solve for something? Now, the point at Gateway of India is pester power. The parents are busy eating popcorn. The child is wanting to play now for that 20 minutes. And parents don't want the child to disturb them at that moment, And that pester power is the insight there. So designing for pester power will ensure you buy a ridiculous toy as well.
Okay.
Right. Arindam, you have a question? You raised your hand.
Yes, I just wanted to mention, like, as you mentioned, the physical toys which involved interaction with the kids, because now the gaming market is quite booming in India. So how challenging do you think that these physical toys will be coming into market and still, be popular among kids?
So the thing is that actually it's a big market. You're right. So the digital market is growing at a 40% per annum, while the offline market is growing at only 8 to 10% per year. So the thing is though that there are hardly people designing toys right now, right? So there are hardly any toy designers that you know. How many do you know, Arindam? Tell me. If I ask you car designers, automotive designers, you'll tell me 20 companies innovating right now. Electronics. So toys, everything is unorganized. So 70%, 80%, 90% market is so unorganized. So the opportunity in toys comes in organizing the market in India and figuring out streamlining, branding yourself, right? And it is definitely still going to be a big one in the offline space as well, because more and more parents are averse to giving technology to the child's hand at a younger age. That's why companies like Flinto Box are doing well, and companies that are subscription models are doing well, so on and so forth. So it wouldn't be booming as big as, it's not a VC friendly space. So you can't raise like $1 million if you're saying, oh, I want to design a wooden board game, but you can definitely build your own without having an investment, because there is a need for it that is growing. And the government wants to now source things internally and build things in the nation itself. So 60% import duties lag gaye hain, so you would rather build them here. Excuse me. Is there any other question?
Obi has another question. What is better business sense? Selling a ₹100 toy to lakhs of kids, or selling a ₹5,000 toy to thousands of kids?
Business wise, you will calculate and you will know. You can calculate, you can multiply 100 with lakhs and 5,000.
Yeah, but my point is, like, do you sell a expensive toy to lesser audience? That is a better sense in terms of toys, or do you sell a cheaper toy to bigger audience?
My personal take is to reach as many people as I can, and that's got nothing to do with money.
Okay.
That's to have the joy of like many people playing with something that you came up with.
All right.
Okay. And I also feel like a lot of expensive toys are expensive forcefully. They can be priced lesser also if you simplify the technology in it, because a lot of that technology is unnecessary.
Okay.
So anyway, toys that are very overpriced are not my favorite. So I wouldn't want to design such toys. Do they make commercial sense? They do. That's why they exist out there to certain companies.
Okay.
Okay. I think we're good then.
One question.
Yeah.
Is it, do we still have time?
Yeah, we can take one question.
Yeah. So I have seen a lot of videos of KiwiCo and companies like that making educational toys, which make sets and DIY kind of toys. I don't see anyone like that in India. Is there a reason for
There
that?
are people in India doing educational toys. They're not as big. There are companies like Smartivity focusing just on those. There are many booming startups working on just these aspects as well in terms of games. And in fact, if you visit a Hamleys or any toy store, there are special educational spaces, like educational categories of toys which are there. There's a big opportunity still to make them really more, I would say, efficient and useful, which means that it should translate in education. It should not just translate in a sale. It should. So if you are wanting to get into that space, it is a fertile space for sure, because it will talk to the parents.
Yeah,
Card game.
just one question. So when you said that you are going to encourage the local manufacturers, so I just wanted to say that I walked into Hamleys maybe about 2 years back, and I asked the shop, the sales guy, and I said, "Do you have anything that's made in India?" And sadly, he couldn't find anything because everything was imported. So I hope.
Do you know who owned? Where does Hamleys traditionally come from?
Yeah, I know, but then I'm saying it was 2-3 years since.
Yeah. So that's what I'm
opened.
asking you. That's what I'm asking you. Do you know who used to own Hamleys?
Yeah, it was based in London. So
So that's exactly the myth, right?
yeah,
So
but
it
it's,
is-
it's taken
no.
so
I'm replying. So the thing is that before Reliance acquired Hamleys globally, the owner of Hamleys was a Chinese guy.
Yeah.
So it was owned by a Chinese company, right? So of course, in China is great at manufacturing. So a lot of push would have come in the brand of objects that were built in China. Now it's internationally owned by Reliance. I'm not a representative of Hamleys. I don't work for Hamleys to answer that question for you. But the limited knowledge I have, I can just tell you this, that now there is going to be definitely a push to source, build, bring locally made toys and put them in the store as well. Not just in India, but export them as well. If you need help in us connecting to you, we are happy to do that.
Definitely, I'll connect. Yeah.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Abhishek is asking, thank you so much. Abhishek is asking, card games versus physical toys, what suit kids better? Card games are physical toys, so I do not know if versus is a point. But if you're saying that plastic molds and figurines and everything, well, Abhishek, can you 2D versus 3D? Depends again what the toy is. It's a very blanket question to answer. I cannot say, I cannot answer that in just this. If you have a detailed question, you can write to me. We can discuss. Okay, guys. So I think, Sachi, we are good. We can close this, hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay. So if there are any questions, I'll put in my details on the chat. You guys can connect with me there. And my email address as well. Yeah. Thank you. It was a wonderful opportunity. Thank you, T-Works. Thank you, Sachi. Thank you to my colleague Neha, who also came in here to help.
This session was wonderful. I think it's one of a kind. It's been the first time that we've had such an interactive session where an even audience came in and we visualized different objects and things like that. I'd like to call Apurva. She's the creative lead for T-Works, and she would like to share a few words. Apurva, are you around? Yeah.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, Krishan. It was a very interesting session. I love the insights that you shared, especially of the mother, father. It's very interesting. And thanks to all the audience. I can see a lot of repeat audience. I recognize a lot of them, and some new members have also joined. So sadly, this is our last in the toy and game design series, and hopefully we'll come up with new interesting topics. Just something about T-Works. So you already know it's the largest prototyping center. It's under construction. Hopefully in a couple of months it'll open. So if you, as we discussed in the session, if you have an idea, you want to build it, come over to T-Works. You can build in different materials with different technologies and processes. You want to do no electronics or with electronics, whatever you want to do, you can come over. It's located in High Tech City. So for more details, you can check our website and follow us on Instagram. Yeah, so that's it. That's the plug from TVworks from my end. Thank you.
Thank you, Purva. So that brings us to the end of the session. Thank you so much to everyone, especially the audience, for being so patient and interactive and really being so avidly in there and getting your questions answered and, like keeping this conversation so fluid. Do stay in touch with us, with me, with Krishan. Reach out to us, like put us an Instagram DM or whatever it is that seems suitable, and we'll see how best we can help you. Please stay in touch for such future events and contests and things like that keep happening. Thanks again for
Sachi.
being a part of this discussion. We wish you a great week ahead.
Sachi, one thing, can the TWorks team stay back? Like we have some questions on how TWorks can help us. Would this be the right forum, or do you think there's another?
What you could do is you could send in a mail. We'll have someone who will reach out to you immediately. Like we usually reply in a couple of hours. So I think if you can, Megha, can you put in the contact information?
Yeah, there's an email ID already put in the chat. That's hello@tworks.in.
Okay.
Probably you can write to us and the team will get back.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you, Krishan, so much for being so amazing.
Thank you. Thank you for having
Thank you so
me.
much.
Thank you for
Thank
having
you so
us.
much.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Krishan.
Bye-bye.